You are watching CNN Money Switzerland. I am Ana Maria Montero. Welcome back to our special coronavirus coverage, bringing you the latest news on how it's affecting global markets and businesses here in Switzerland, but also how it's touching all of us in our daily lives. Now, as we speak, we are waiting for a press conference to begin by the Swiss Federal Council. So in the meantime, we are joined now by Andreas Schaffner, who is going to talk to us, just walk us through what's happening with the markets. They're plunging again today. Are we looking at another Black Monday? Welcome, Andreas.
Yeah, it looks like very heavy. Markets are being hit very heavily at the moment. We see a drop in early trading in the Dow Jones of -8%. The trading was halted again after we saw that last week. In Europe, it looks devastating. We have, at the moment, we're trading here in Switzerland about -3% on the SMI. So big banks are hit most, and it's despite all these, these measures that have been undertaken by central banks, with a really big drop of interest rates done by the Fed and everything else that has been put in place over this night, it still looks like a bad moment for markets.
And how long do you think? Is there a rebound in sight? I mean, is there what would need to happen?
It's too early. I mean, probably they're still in panic mode, so nobody knows, what triggers the other things. Probably we'll see much more of this volatility, and probably we'll see much more of a, clearer view on how the economy is really, being hit. So at the moment, everybody's trying to reevaluate the stocks, trying to figure out how much impact, on company returns you will see, but you also have effects on traders or investors. They have to sell stocks at the moment. A lot of them have to, because the banks are they're calling for margins, and this margin call, that is something which has a ripple-on effect on markets. As you see, investors have to sell because banks want the money.
And how could we feel? How could we eventually feel these ripple effects on a more consumer level? Is that going to take a while to feel the effects of this, or?
Well, it's consumer-driven, demand-driven, and supply-driven. That crisis that we're in now. So it's hard to really imagine what's happening. Will prices go up higher? Will they go lower? At the moment, you have economists telling you both ways. So it's really too early to really judge and to really make a final conclusion there. But what we can see in Switzerland, you see the Swiss franc still being hit. The Swiss National Bank has taken measures. They, if you look at the latest figures, they even bought a lot of euros last week, so it's piling up again. So we'll see much more of that. The emergency measures need to be taken. I think we didn't see the last of that, and it all depends now on how governments are putting measures in place as well, in terms of taxation, in terms of also when it comes to helping the economy or the SMEs, as well as the big companies, airline industries, in a short term, but also in a longer term. So it's really a lot of decisions. We have to wait. In Switzerland, we're still waiting. At the moment, the White House is also having a press conference. So everybody's waiting for governments to also take actions here.
All right, and of course, we'll be listening and we'll be keeping you updated. Thank you so much, Andreas. And on the topic of companies, again, all over the globe, struggling to keep pace with the effects of the coronavirus and how to mitigate the impact on their businesses. Earlier, I spoke to Beatrix Morat. She's Managing Director and Country Head Switzerland of Alex Partners, about some of the tools and strategies that companies can implement in the face of the COVID-19 crisis.
So first and foremost, protect health and safety of your people. Once the policies are in place, really recognize it as a crisis, declare it a crisis, and act like in a crisis, so fast and decisive. What does this mean for companies? Really establish a crisis management team. consisting of the senior members of the leadership. Second, develop cash forecasts and a worst case scenario, both in terms of the magnitude of the crisis and the duration of the crisis. And then really focus on the 3 C's: cash management, communication and collaboration. Cash management, what brings company down is illiquidity. And companies really need to understand which of the investments can they stop, how can they cut their costs, their expenses in order to protect cash. There are also difficult decisions to make, like for example, do we need to divest parts of our portfolio just in order to ensure liquidity of the company. So that's the cash. Second C is communication with all the stakeholders, suppliers, customers, financial stakeholders, because it's a time of uncertainty and kind of clarity of the situation and what a company is doing is providing security. And the last of the 3 C's, collaboration with suppliers, financial stakeholders, the government. This is an unprecedented situation in modern times. It won't be a situation that is easily solved, so collaboration with the main stakeholders will be one important measure in this situation.
You mentioned that at the beginning, declaring that it's a crisis, you have to be fast and decisive. Do you find that Switzerland in general, are we being fast and decisive enough? Are companies moving as fast as they should?
It's difficult to judge because on hindsight, one would certainly have reacted earlier. But I feel that it's really dawning on people that we need to act as decisive as companies need to act in a crisis.
So, and you also mentioned how in the cash situations, they really have to be aware of what they can divest, where they can change their portfolios, et cetera. So it really sounds like you have to have a strong contingency plan in place.
Absolutely. I mean, really understanding what this virus means to your business, where are the risks in the business, and reacting to it, acting upon the situation in the cash situation. That's crucial for the survival of the companies. Those who react decisive and fast also in cash management, those companies have the strongest probability of surviving.
And which industries at the moment and sectors do you see as the most affected and why?
The one which is very obvious is the travel sector and really across the value chain. One reads a lot about the airlines, but it's also the tour operators, the hotels, the service providers which are linked to the travel sector. So the whole travel sector, it is the media sector because media companies lose revenues in ads. That's one of the measures companies adopt, cutting ad and in general marketing expenses. And then the question is who really buys magazines, newspapers at the supermarket if there is a lockdown.
Yes, if you can't leave the house, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
But so then the winners are the ones that can get in the house with you, which are the streaming services.
Yeah. And we already see that this happening, that companies like Spotify, like Netflix, and other companies who offer services to be consumed at home profit from the situation.
And as a consumer goods retail expert, what can you tell me about the panic buying that we're seeing currently?
I think that's kind of the nature of human beings, and that's part of the psychology of human beings. But really moving to business and to how companies cope with it, I am really confident that the companies, the food companies, the retailers will be able to cope with it. They have long established supply chain. And I think even at the height of the crisis in China, really the food supply wasn't the big issue.
But it is a good thing for retailers at the moment. I mean, you think about this, the supermarkets are packed, selling out. I mean, the flip side is that retailers are also benefiting to an extent, right?
Short term, yes, but you can only eat so much food. You can only use so much sanitizer. At some point in time, people will use up whatever they've bought on stock. And other categories won't profit at all. Think about apparel. Think about some of the luxury goods. So in the midterm, I don't see a big benefit for consumer goods and retail companies. I would rather say the contrary. For many categories in consumer goods, this will be a huge strain.
Remember, you can get involved in today's news by checking out our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and whatever the comment, it's always great to hear from you. And of course, don't forget, everything is also on our website. That's cnnmoney.ch. Stay tuned. We'll be back.